there's nothing worse in sports than a tie. And that's what Arkansas had over the weekend, a tie with Stetson in a 4-game series. The Razorbacks won the first 2 games, lost the last 2, including 6-4 yesterday. That brings Arkansas's record to 12-5 overall. They'll start SEC play on Friday night here in Fayetteville against Mississippi State. The reason there's nothing worse than a tie, Bubba, is because you can kind of point to whatever you want to point to. Like if you want to say, hey, here's the positives, people kind of have to listen to that. If you want to say, hey, here's the negatives, you kind of have to listen to that too. I think that's why baseball series are meant to be odd numbered, 3 games, 5 games, 7 games, something like that. 4-game series, it can kind of leave you open to different interpretations. We'll talk about everything that happened during the series on the show today, but just the way that the series ended with 2 straight losses, I think it leaves a little bit of a sour taste in everybody's mouth, the fans, the players, coaches, whoever. When you look back at what happened over these 4 games against Stetson, I wonder how you analyze and how do you feel about this baseball team?
About our team or about Stetson?
About Arkansas.
I was getting text after Saturday's game, during Saturday's game, where Hunter Dietz was carving them up. And people were saying, well, these guys, they're terrible. These guys are horrible. And, I said, no, they're not. Dietz is really good. You could tell they had an experienced lineup. Some of the numbers of the guys, they were a little top-loaded with their numbers. But I thought Stetson was a better team than people thought they were. And I heard Dave say that in his interview. But as far as our guys, I mean, I'm not – I think the thing that's frustrating is that little lefty that came in, that's the difference of command versus control right there. I mean, that dude threw the ball right where he wanted it every time. I felt like we didn't make an adjustment with him. Could have done a better job. He stayed basically away. He came in a couple times. Came in on Reese, hit him in the shoulder. Came in on Souza once, and Souza got his hands inside, actually hit it hard. But pretty much stayed away. I didn't think we made an adjustment. Still hit 10 balls over 100 miles an hour yesterday. Wynn knocked some balls down. Coach had a couple good at-bats. I agree with what you said. You can take away a lot of positives or a lot of negatives. I'm going to take the positives out of it and say we're still getting better, and we'll find out how good we are this weekend, Matt. I mean that's the key. Is I struggled in non-conference, and I know other guys have done that, but I struggle in non-conference, and I want to say I hit over 400 in conference, but I couldn't hit non-conference pitching. There was something about it. It's something we didn't train at, a level we didn't train at, and I think that's part of this. And I think Carter Rudenbaugh, I think he said it in the postgame. He talked about the speed difference, and he was very polite in the way he said it. Is they don't train for that. They don't see that a lot, and I think that's got a lot to do with it. Now, with that being said, you still got to you got to make an adjustment. But we did hit some balls hard yesterday, and we made some good plays. I thought, and this is a long-winded answer. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I liked the bases loaded play. It was a high chopper to Souza, and he could have come home. And it's a split-second decision. Do I go home and get the force? There was 1 out, and get the force out at home, which is the easy play, or do I take a chance on turning 2? He stepped up and got the ball, got the big hop, and ended up turning 2, 5-4-3 double play in the inning. I thought that was a really good play. I mean, you take away little things like that, and that gets you excited. But we did tie, but it could have been worse. I know LSU did. They would have liked to tie over the weekend. So would Florida.
Yeah, it's like I said. There's. This series is really open for interpretation. I want to tell you real quick, today's baseball podcast brought to you by H&R Tire and Auto. They're a third-generation family-owned business serving Northwest Arkansas since 1976. Just like great baseball programs, H&R is built on consistency, trust, doing things the right way, no shortcuts, and no gimmicks at H&R Tire and Auto. You think about how they scheduled this. If this is just a regular 3-game weekend series, I think people have a different feeling about how everything went down this weekend. It's you win game 1, fairly dominant. I know that Van Horn said that he thought that even though it was 7-1, it felt more like 7-6. But you win by 6 runs. Saturday totally dominated, and we see this a lot of times where you get up on a team 2-0. And, they don't want to get swept, and they come out and they play a good game on Sunday, and they get out of town at, 1-2. Well, but you schedule a 4-game series here because, it just kind of how it worked out for both teams. They both needed another game, and Stetson said they could stay over on Monday. So a lot of that is just kind of how the scheduling worked. If this is a 3-game series, Arkansas wins the series, but the way it is, it's a 4-game series. They don't. Yesterday is a weird game because you play it like a midweek game. And I think one of the, I don't know if concern's the right word, but when you look at Arkansas right now, one of the things that's really inconsistent for them is midweek starting pitching. You had Peyton Lee against Arkansas State. James DeCremer did not have a good outing against ORU last week, and then certainly he didn't have a good outing yesterday. It was the first time that a Razorback starting pitcher didn't record an out since Connor Noland against Vanderbilt in 2019. So that kind of tells you how rare it is to have the type of outing where he just got overwhelmed by Stetson in that lineup. Yesterday it felt like Stetson, there was the curfew. It just felt like Stetson wanted that game more at the start. Like they were loud and they came out and they got after DeCremer. And, you got Arkansas kind of on its heels a little bit from what had happened the day before. And they responded in the second inning, but that was really about the only, response of the game in terms of really putting together a rally and making Stetson sweat.
Yeah, and I think anytime you get off to a 4-0 deficit, you've got to battle back.
With no outs.
Yeah, with no outs. But, you got to tip your hat to Stetson. They had a couple of good at-bats. The top end of their lineups, really, they're good. You look at the home run that Desero hit. I can't remember. I want to say it was a 1-1 count, but it was a changeup. DeCremer doubled up on the changeup. And the ball he hit out, you hear me talk about staying on the tracks a lot. It was actually a good changeup. It was located down and not on the corner, but it was away. The guy did a good job of staying on the ball and, what I call keeping your nose on the ball and driving it out the right field. But the Kramer looked different to me yesterday. His changeup, he was showing his changeup, so you could see it. I don't know if he's doing something different on it, but he just looked a little bit different. But to your point about Stetson, yeah, they came out with some energy. And we showed energy at times, and I like the way we battle back. Anytime you give yourself a chance at the end of the game, I'm happy. And I kept saying, I said in the 6th inning, the 7th inning, the 8th inning, and even the 9th inning, I'm like, look, I feel good about this. We're going to get a guy on base. We're going to get another guy on base. We're going to hit a 3-run homer, and we're going to win it. And even that last inning, when Aloy came up to the plate, I'm like, Kuil's going to go deep right here. And in the inning before, I'm like, Sousa's going to go deep here. And I just felt good. I felt really good about the lineup. And even when Pompey came up, and Pompey had already seen the lefty, I'm like, he's going to get him one right here. The guy made good pitches to him. I feel bad for Pompey right now. It's a bad place to be. I mean, you just mentally, you just feel for him because, I mean, you realize how hard the game of baseball is when you watch him at the plate right now.
I can't remember if it was, I think it was his second at bat. The umpire yesterday was given a low strike, and he gave a pitcher a strike that was not only low, but it was off the plate against Pompey. And it's like, oh boy, he's going to have to expand his strike zone now. And that's not what you, want from him, because that's been the pitch that he's really been having so much trouble with. And, lo and behold, it turns into a really bad game for him, 4 strikeouts. And, just it's shortstop is such a hard thing to figure out, I think, with this team right now. And I asked Van Horn about it after the game yesterday, and you could kind of hear, I think, the frustration in his voice. He said, can Rutenbar play short? That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? But, I mean, you got Brumball with the errors. Brumball, he's not making good contact either. He's making more contact than Pompey is, but he's also grounding into a lot of double plays. His batting average is about 32 points lower than Pompey's. Shortstop is the biggest question mark on this team right now. I don't know what they do about shortstop. Pompey plays pretty good defense there. It's a premium defensive position. I guess right now you just kind of have to live with the offensive struggles that those two guys are having at that position, because I don't know who else you put at shortstop.
Well, Sousa's arm right now is not ready to play short. Once Sousa's arm's ready to play short, you could shuffle the infield up a little bit and make some stuff work. Right now, I mean, you got two guys to play short, and you got to go with. I think you go defense first, and then just hopefully they'll pop one every once in a while, get a base hit. I think Dave said something to that effect, but I think you got to go defense first. Whoever's playing the best defense, and just hope that they can scratch out a hit. And who knows, maybe when we get into SEC play and we're seeing 95, 96 consistently, maybe the bats come around a little bit.
You heard Van Horn say after Sunday's game with Brumbaugh, he committed 2 throwing errors in that game. He said it's confidence with him right now. He reminds me a little bit of Peyton Stovall, his freshman year. Remember, Stovall comes in, everybody says this is your freshman of the year in the SEC. Same thing happened with Brumbaugh. And I think that these major publications do a disservice to the players and to the teams by saying that this guy's going to be the freshman of the year in a conference when they've never seen him play against that level of baseball. He very well may come in and do well, but I think that with everything that a freshman has to deal with, being away from home for the first time, kind of managing their life on their own, you're in the first year of doing that. And then you throw all these added pressures and expectations on top of it. Boy, I can see where that can be pretty overwhelming for a guy.
I mean, yeah, and then you're playing a premier position at that. I mean, playing shortstop, it's different if you're a right fielder struggling or left fielder or something. But when you're playing shortstop, I mean, there's so much pressure for the defensive side of it. And you don't want to see him lose his confidence. Dave said something about it's a lack of confidence. Baseball's so mental. I mean, you got to believe you're the man. Even when you're struggling, you've got to believe, hey, this is the at bat. I'm going to get it going right here. You flush the other at bats and you start over. And if you make a bad throw, I think that's what Carson started doing. He made that one bad throw, and then he starts thinking, okay, the next one. Then he makes another bad throw, and his first 2 bad throws were on really tough plays. One was a deflection off of Sousa's glove. He came up, and kind of threw it off balance, got away, and bounced into the stands, I think, got away from Reese. The other one was a ball he charged in a odd angle throw. And then from there on, it seems like he's thinking about the throw, and you can't think about it. You got to cut it loose.
There's a picture of Brumbaugh that one of our photographers got. Poor guy. I mean, like he's walking off the field, I think after a strikeout or something, and you can just see like the weight of the world on this guy's shoulder. The confidence part of it, and what you heard Van Horn say, because remember when Vahiva Aloy was here, the comment would always be he doesn't take his bat out to the field.
Right.
But it seems like that is a problem now with Brumbaugh. How hard is it to leave the at-bat that you just had, say in the bottom of the inning when you go out and you play in the field the top of the inning?
I wish I could say it's easy. It's not, though, because you're taught from a long age, from an early age, if you hit, you're going to play. I preach it to my kids all the time. Look, my younger kids coming up the ladder, even my high school kids, look, if you can hit, that coach is going to find a place to play you. So your whole life you're taught that. And then you look at a guy like Carson. I mean, he's been a stud since he was 9 years old. He's probably never struggled, or I know he's never struggled like this. And you mentioned Stovall. Same with Stovall. Stovall raked his whole life, and he came here, and he finally was struggling. And, man, it's hard, and it just shows you how hard the game is. I wish there was a magic potion, a get right pill you could take, but it's just you've got to figure it out mentally. It's you against you. In the movie Creed, there's a scene where Sylvester Stallone says that, talking to the guys, like it's you against you, and that's how it is, man. When you're playing a game of baseball, it's you against you. When you step up to the plate, it's you against you. You've got to get right here. And same when you go out in the field. You got to be ready for every ball hit to you, know where you're going with it. And when you conquer that, I mean, I believe me, I understand because I was psycho. I used to go home at night and not sleep because I'd think about pitches like, why did I miss that pitch? Why did I take that pitch? How did I roll over that pitch? and it beat me up mentally. And then once I conquered this thing, the game slowed down. So not that I fully conquered it. I still think I'm battling with it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's a tough game. It really is. And when you're a freshman, and you just got to build up those scars and deal with it and move on, and eventually it'll get right.
Hey, when it comes to game day, you want the best in your lineup. That includes your eggs. Eggland's Best delivers more of the nutrition you need with 6 times more vitamin D and 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Score now with Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs. EgglandsBest.com. At shortstop, so you're going to have to ride with one of these two players. They're struggling offensively. What do you do with a player who's struggling offensively? I mean, it's like a big black hole in the lineup right now, that 9 spot, whether it's Brumbaugh or Pompey. You heard Van Horn say afterward, he said, maybe we start having them bunt. Maybe we start having them take pitches. How do you, what are the things you can do as an offense to mask someone who's struggling so badly in that position?
When you're struggling, the best thing you can do is see pitches. The more pitches you see, the better off you are. And then, you got to get more specific in the zone. Like I watch Pompey, and I'm not criticizing him. I'm just saying I can't tell. Like a lot of times, I'll use Rutenball or Bar as an example yesterday. I could tell his approach. He stepped up to the plate and he had an idea and he had approach. I could tell, especially with 2 strikes, he made a conscious effort to say, I'm gonna fight off this pitch inside, but if it's outside, I'm gonna stay on it, hit it the other way. He did it in the 9th inning, a great at bat, with an 0-2 pitch away, just right on the black. He just poked it to left, and once again, I'm not beating up on Pompey. I don't know his approach. I can't look at his at bat from my vantage point and say, okay, he's trying to drive the ball to right field, or he's looking for a pitch he can drive to left field. I can't tell. So as a hitter, you gotta. I go off a strike zone. I've talked to you about it before. I have 7 balls. That's your strike zone. Narrow it down. You've got to, if you're looking to pull the ball, hunt 1 through 5, take 6 and 7. If you're looking to go the other way, take 1 and 2, and hunt 3 through 7. You got to give the pitcher part of the plate. And when you whatever part of the plate you're looking for, you got to own that part of the plate. So if you're looking to drive the ball center, right, center, own 3 through 7. And if you're looking to pull, give the pitcher, but you got to give something up. And then when you get right, it's kind of a constant struggle. Then when you get right, everything looks good, so you start to expand the zone again, and you start to struggle, and you got to zone back in. But it's all about zoning in and shrinking the zone a little bit. And if it's not there, don't swing. If you want to hunt a speed, great, pick a speed and stay on it. If you want to hunt a zone, pick a zone and stay in it. But you got to do one or the other. You can't try to cover the whole plate every pitch.
We were talking earlier about Van Horn. He seemed he wasn't in a good mood after the end of the game. But there are like levels of bad moods from a coach, and sometimes they can come in and they can be real frustrated. It didn't seem like he was, at that highest level of frustration yesterday. And I thought it was because, they did compete. They get down 4-0, but then it's 4-3. They did hit the ball. They had 12 hits. And, you talked about Kozel earlier. He had 3 balls, 109 miles an hour that were outs yesterday. Yeah. I mean, he had the one that could have been a home run if not for the wind. 9th inning, he has a line out up the middle. If that second baseman's not positioned right where he is, that's a line drive into the outfield. Maybe Ruiz goes first to third. Maybe he stops at second, but you got 2 on with nobody out, and who knows how that 9th inning goes if that happens. So, there are portions of the lineup. Souza had a double yesterday, but didn't do a whole lot else. You had Pompey in the 9-hole. Ruiz didn't do a whole lot in the leadoff spot until he got the hit in the 9th inning. But I thought that, there were a lot of decent swings and at-bats. And what'd you say? There were 10 balls over 100 miles an hour?
Over 100.
Yeah, so, there were some good swings. And so I think that they liked the compete out of the team. They didn't like the loss. I still go back to I think you can get better from losing games, and I don't know what the right formula is to be good at the end of the season. I don't know if it's starting out 12-5 or like the Well, there have been teams here that have started out, not great, but they like those early struggles, they get better, and then they're kind of battle tested at the end. Or I don't know if the right elixir is starting out like 24-1 like they did last year, or whatever the record was, and you're hot and you just keep rolling. I don't know what it is, but I do think that if you look at this from a glass half full perspective, I do think that there is some benefit to struggling early and having to figure things out. I think that makes you a tougher baseball team. Now, can they do it? I don't know. But I think we've seen enough from this offense where, and this is maybe kind of the most puzzling thing for me this year with this team, is like they'll show a game or two or three in succession where it's like, okay, they're starting to get, and then it just kind of falls off for a game or two. And it's kind of hard to explain. Kind of a long-winded way to say I think that, there is good that can come out of this. It's just they've got to be able to respond the right way.
I think so. And talking about the good, there were 2 games in a row we hit 16 balls over 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And I said it our last podcast. That's incredible. The one game was against Old Roberts. I think it was a 7-inning game. So we had 39 plate appearances. We had 4 walks and a hit bat or whatever. So, but we had 32 official plate appearances or at bats and 16 balls over 100. That's ridiculous. Yesterday, even on a day where, if you're just the average fan, I guess, sitting there watching a game, you're like, wow, what's going on? But we hit 10 balls over 100 miles an hour. Kozier's ball to center was 104. That ball almost always is a home run. Sousa's ball to left center was 98, but at the angle it went up, I don't even want to say, I hate launch angle. The angle it went up, with the wind that's normally at ball marker, that blows into the hog pen. There's so many. You're like so close. But then you look at other things, and I love Ryder Helfrich, but he struck out 3 times on pitches out of the zone, all away.
Yeah.
Now, the pitch before the strikeout on 2 of those, I want to say was a ball off the plate they called a strike. So the next pitch, they go back out there, and he ends up having to swing at it. Now, I'm not blaming the ump. I'm just saying that's human nature as a hitter. You're like, if he's going to call that, I got to swing at it.
Yeah, that looked like a getaway day strike zone.
It really did. It tended to get wide, and when you're facing a guy like Ball, that little lefty that can throw the ball wherever he wants, it was incredible how he spotted up. He was 86 to 88. I guess I called it a baby slider on. It just had a little tiny cut at the end, a little tiny break, and then a changeup. But he could throw it where he wanted. It was pretty impressive to watch him pitch.
By the way, Ball, he started his career at Alabama. He spent 4 years at Alabama. So this is not a guy that just comes out of nowhere and has this great game. He pitched at Alabama for, I think he redshirted a year, but he pitched for him for 3 years. And that's the thing that stood out to me about the Stetson team, by the way. Like, their leadoff guy, he came from Virginia. Their 2-hole guy, he came from Miami. I think they had a guy in their lineup that came from Florida. So, these are guys who, for whatever reason, it didn't work out at, the elite programs.
Right.
But they're players who certainly had a lot of capability, or they wouldn't have gotten a chance to go to those programs in the first place.
Well, even a guy like Hilton, the big dude, the big right
fielder. How did people miss on him?
I don't know. He's a senior right now.
Yeah.
And, what is he, 6'4", 6'5",
I think he's 6'5", 225.
And when he hits the ball in BP, he hammers it.
Yeah.
He just flattens the ball. Now, he's a little bit of a circus in right field. He needs to get better in right field. I think he's a little bit, I call it big league-itis. I think he's a little lackadaisical out in right field. But, the guy, off his body alone, someone will take a chance on him. They won't draft him. They'll probably sign him free agent after the draft just on potential. But, and I go back to the ball that Fisher, the 0-2 breaking ball. And I rarely disagree with a pitch call, but, I want to say we went curveball and he looked bad, changeup down, he looked bad, and then we come back with curveball right there, and it was just right over the plate. Now, if he buries it, he probably gets the strikeout.
I think you're supposed to bury it.
But it just happened to be over the middle of the plate. I feel like right there we got to change. We got to throw a fastball up, throw a fastball off, do something to get him off of that change up, curveball, speed, and I think we just did him a favor. We just ran into his barrel. But, if he buries the curveball, he swings at it into the dirt, then we're not having this conversation.
De La Cruz, their leadoff guy, he's a redshirt junior. If he plays the rest, and he's played really well all year. I think he came in here batting over 350 or 360, I think. If he plays like that all year, I don't know that he's going to get drafted this year, but I would have to think that some major programs are going to be after this guy in the transfer portal if he wants to leave Stetson next season, because I came away really impressed with him with just about every at-bat. There was an at-bat yesterday. Was it against Steele Eves or Coyle? It was one of the two where he fouled off 6 straight pitches, 8 pitches during a 10-pitch at-bat, and he was all over the pitcher. And it felt like that Ryder Helfrich at-bat down in Arlington where the guy from Oklahoma State just couldn't get him off of his pitches. And it was the same thing, with whoever was on the mound for Arkansas at this point. They could not get De La Cruz off. And you talk about seeing pitches. It just feels like the longer those at-bats go on, it's going to end in a hit. It's going to end in a hit, or it's going to end in a hit batsman, or it's going to end in a walk or something like that. And sure enough, he gets a hold of one and he puts it out in left field. I could not have been more impressed with him. I think he's a really good base runner. I think he's really got good plate discipline. He looks like an SEC player to me.
Yeah. The at bat you're talking about was off a Coyle 10-pitch at bat, and if you can battle 10 pitches against Coyle, you're really good, because he threw him some tough pitches, and he was able to foul them off. He's got that cutter they can cut in. He can backdoor breaking balls, so he threw him multiple pitches, and he just kept battling. But you're right. I think the De La Cruz, his weaknesses in the field. I want to say he played third base one game, second a couple games. I think they're still trying to find a place. He slipped and fell a couple times at second. I don't know if they have a position for him, but at the plate, he battles, and he's really good when he gets on base.
When you were talking about ball, I wanted to mention this. Steve Trimper, the Stetson head coach, did you see this quote about what their game plan was yesterday? He said, quote, "We tried to do the same plan as Sunday, which was to keep the ball down and keep it on the corners. Don't nibble too much, but be sure that you're just trying to catch the box." We kept the ball down, and they kept the ball in the ballpark. And that goes back to that strike zone. Like when you're trying to attack the corners and you got a big zone, big window you're trying to throw into, it was just like the perfect ingredients for them, at least yesterday, to be able to have some success pitching.
Yeah, you're right. If you've got a regular zone and you're not getting that ball a few inches off the plate, maybe it's a different game. But, both teams had the same strike zone. So, it's tough, but it did. That strike zone matched up perfectly with what that guy was throwing. And to his credit, there was one at bat. I want to say it was Kojal. He dotted 3 balls in a row off of Kojal, and the third one was just off the plate. And Kojal swung at it, had to chase it, because it was just off the plate. He just did a good job. He didn't make mistakes. I don't know if he threw a single ball over the middle of the plate.
It was a good pitching performance by Ball. I was impressed by him yesterday. Southern Loft believes your home should reflect your unique personality. That's why they offer a wide variety of stylish furniture pieces that are perfect for any taste, whether you're looking for a new sofa for the living room, a sleek dining table for your kitchen. They've got just what you need. When you're looking for that piece of furniture that reflects you, visit Southern Loft at 3155 North College Avenue in Fayetteville, or call 479-856-6100.
Let me say one more thing about Ball.
Go ahead.
When I'm facing a soft lefty like that, you want to get him out. His comfort zone staying away. What you got to do as a hitter, and maybe they did it. Maybe they talked about it. I don't know. I didn't talk to Tom's, but you got to get on top of the plate and make that 7 look like a 5, and dare him to come inside. Because, like I said, he came inside twice, and he hit Reese and then left one up to Souza that he just missed. I think you gotta get on top of the plate with a guy like that and challenge him and say you're gonna have to come into me, because if you throw it out there, I'm gonna smoke it right back up the middle.
We've gone a long time now in the show withoout talking about the pitching, the starting pitching that Arkansas had, quote unquote, on the weekend. Especially Friday and Saturday from Gackle and Dietz. Fisher didn't have a great outing. He got through some trouble first and third, the first or two of the first three innings. But I'm going to start with Gackle. It was not like this overpowering, dominant Friday start. I don't know that you're going to get that from him. Like we're still waiting to see that overpowering start from Gabe Gackle. And at some point, maybe you just have to say, hey, what you're going to get from him is like a good outing from him is 6 innings, 6-7 strikeouts, and he leaves the game in a good position for the bullpen. Maybe he's got more in the tank. I don't know. But that was the best start that he's had at Arkansas. It was the most pitches he's ever thrown. It was the longest he's ever gone in a starting outing. What did you think from him?
I thought he was pretty good. I like the fact his slider wasn't he didn't command his slider, but he was able to go more to that slower breaking ball. The curve ball around 80 miles an hour is really good. His changeup to lefties is good. His fastball was pretty good. I mean, it's 94, 95, but it plays like perceived velocity. I think it plays up. You know, the way he throws the ball. He releases it. He's down low. He releases so it holds its plane well. I thought he looked good, you know, and he got out of a couple jams. And I think that I interviewed him after the game and asked him something about being able to pitch with runners on base. And I think the fact that he's been out of the bullpen, you know, for 2 years, I think that's helped him learn to maneuver traffic a little bit, and he doesn't let it phase him.
Dietz, I mean, this is 3 weeks in a row, I think, where we come in and say he looked better than he did the week before. And, you know, he goes 9 strikeouts in, 4 innings, I think, in his second start. Then he goes 8 strikeouts in 7 innings, his third start, and now 12 strikeouts in the start that he had the other day. I think it was 7 innings. What do you say about him? Like I mean, this is really, really good stuff that you're seeing from Hunter Dietz. I think that if you're looking for a bright spot from the weekend, it's that outing that he had where he had everything working, and he didn't really have to throw the fastball a whole lot. He used it to set up his other pitches, but man, the way he's landing those curveballs and those cutters, it's unbelievable watching this. Trimper, the head coach for Stetson, said that he's the best pitcher he's seen in 15 years and called him a first-round arm.
Yeah, no, I believe it. So you can look at all the analytics, you know, in TrackMan and say, okay, this is what his pitches are doing, or you can just look at the hitters. The reaction of the hitters are going to tell you how good his stuff was that day, and they were just baffled. They had it was almost like they had no chance. There weren't very many quality swings against him, and I think that's a tribute to Helfrich too. You know, it's almost like when Helfrich knew when they're looking away, he would go cut her in. When they're looking in, he would go dot the fastball away or go, you know, backdoor breaking ball. I mean, he just had them totally they just not competitive at bats. And we already talked about it's a pretty good lineup, especially the top part. But that just goes to show you how good his stuff was, is just a reaction of the hitters.
There's going to be talk if Dietz keeps pitching like this about whether or not you put him on Friday night. I wonder if Arkansas actually has a better setup the way it is right now, where you've got Gackle going on Friday, and if he's effective, he can keep you in the game against, you know, whoever the other team's guy is. And then you've got Dietz, who's pitching like a Friday night starter in the role Saturday. I would think it's difficult. I guess 2 thoughts here. Again, I think Gackle has the capability to pitch with other aces. I don't know that he's going to be as good as every one of them. Probably not. You're not going to have it every week. But like I think that, you know, consistently he's got the ability to stay with the other team's ace. I don't know that another team has a number 2 that can stay with Hunter Dietz if he's throwing like he's capable.
I agree. I like him where he's at on Saturday. I agree. There's not a lot of Saturday guys. Mississippi State's got a good lefty. I think we'll see on Saturday, but I don't think he's Hunter Dietz. As far as Gackle, I like him on Friday night. I still feel good with the ball in Gackle's hand, even when his stuff. If he has a day where there's a pitch not working, he knows how to go to something else and get outs with something else, and I think that's just a special ability. I still like Gackle a lot, and then if we can get by, the key is we're going to have to score on Friday night against their Friday night guy,
That may
and that's
be
kind of
hard.
the big question mark, Matt. But I saw our guys hit our pitching in the fall and early spring, so I know we can do it. If we can hit our guys, we can hit anybody.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to this weekend just to kind of see.
I think they hit better in the fall. You know, like in the preseason practices in January, the first week or two. You know, the first week was open, or at least the first practice was open. And then it got cold and nasty, and they had to go inside for a long time. But like for the first couple of weeks, what you heard was like, hey, it's kind of a good give and take. You know, pitching will have some good days, hitting will have some good days. But then there were like 2 weeks there where it was like, man, the pitching is really holding these guys down. But they did hit them in the fall, and so it shows you that I think the capability is there. You know, like with a guy like Brumbaugh, I thought he was their second best hitter in the fall. Helfrich was their best. I thought Brumbaugh was probably their second best. I mean, he was putting up decent power numbers. He was getting on base several times. You know, and then you look at it on the flip side, Zach Stewart did not play well in the fall at all.
Right.
Well, now he's, you know, I mean, I know it's a lower number of at bats for him, but I think he's got their highest batting average right now, and he didn't play the last 2 days. I think that's, you know, something worth mentioning. Now, Rutenbar did play in his place, and Rutenbar had success, but you know, they think they'll get Stewart back in the lineup by Friday. It seems like maybe he's turned the corner a little bit. Now, can you get some of those players who were hitting well in the fall to turn the corner and, you know, kind of get back to what you know, or at least a version of what you know they're capable of being?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to happen. I'm a glass half full guy.
Always.
I think, I think if our pitchers can continue to do what they do, I think we're going to score enough runs to win. And that's kind of the unanswered question: how many runs can we score on a Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday? I think the talent. I still look at the lineup, and I know I said the same thing last week. I still look at this lineup and I see studs. I see really talented players. Now, they've got to figure it out. You know, I compare it to spring training. When I first signed with the Yankees, I went to rookie ball, and every guy I walked by was a dude. They were all just monsters. They were all 6'4", 210, 220, and they were all just dudes. And you watch them take BP, and you're like, oh, my gosh, if this is pro ball, I'm in trouble. I'm out there hitting on the field with a guy that's playing pepper with the 400-foot batter's eye off a tee. And I'm like, this is crazy. But then you watch them, and none of them can figure out how to play. You know, it's kind of the Moneyball thing. If he's a good hitter, then why didn't he hit? You know, so all these guys are talented, super talented. They just have to put it all together. And when we do, or if hopefully when they do, the talent's there, and we're going to score. I think this lineup will start clicking. Hitting's contagious.
These numbers are going to go down. There's no doubt, because they're going to face better pitching coming up in the SEC. But you look at this. These are their everyday starters' batting averages right now. 359 by Kozel, 340 by Ruiz, 339 by Kuhio Aloy. And I want to talk to you about his swing here in just a second. 333 by Micah New. He's coming up. I mean, he's playing, I think, at the level that people thought they'd get. Ryder Helfrich, 328. I don't feel like he's hitting anywhere near what he's capable of doing. Robinette's at 310. Then you skip down here. Zach Stewart is at 423, but he hadn't played a whole lot. The problem is there's like the Grand Canyon between Reese Robinette at 310, and then you go down here and you've got Nolan Souza, who's hitting 196, and then Pompey and Brumbaugh, whoever you have in the lineup at shortstop, 188 and 156 between them. I mean, it's kind of like feast or famine for this lineup, and there's a lot of times where you get the bottom half or the bottom part of the lineup come up to the plate, and there's runners on. They had runners on the last 2 days. They were 1 for 19 with runners in scoring position. It's just you get there, and it's just not happening consistently enough.
But think about it. Where else in baseball do you have a guy like Nolan Souza hitting 8-hole?
So what do you see from Souza? Because Van Horn says that he thinks that his swing is coming around.
I do.
But, you know, I mean, the numbers are 196. The strikeouts are lower this year. That's one thing. Now, they have come up a little bit. It's 15 strikeouts in 56 at-bats. Certainly you'd want that to be a little bit lower. Had the double yesterday. Could have probably had a home run. I think he had 2 hits and a walk on Saturday. It's not consistent. It feels like with him. It's like the days that it's going well, and the days it's not, it seems like it's going real bad, an O for day. What do you see from him? Because you remember last year he kind of started out like this too, and by the time he tore up that shoulder, it felt like he was starting to like. Is he a naturally slow starter? What do you see from him?
He could be. I think he's thinking at the plate. He looks like a guy that's loading to see if he wants to hit versus a guy loading to hit. There's a difference. That's why he's late. You hate to see a guy like that foul off 0-0, 1-0, 2-0 pitches to the left side. Man, when you got to be on go. Get the barrel out there. It doesn't mean you have to pull it, but get the head of the bat out in those it counts. I've already told you about getting fined for being late.
Yeah.
And I was joking with Souza about it, standing around the tunnel there, just joking about, we used to get fined anytime we were late on a pitch. And you learn to be on time, and that's it. And maybe early on, maybe it's a trigger mechanism. From the time your eyes process the information to your swing starts, there's a little delay there with Nolan, and maybe now he's starting to trend in the right way. He hit that 2-0 pitch, was a fastball away, and he hit it 106, 107 to left field for a double. I mean, it was a great swing. I think he's going in the right direction. I really do. Because with Nolan, it's pretty good. You can tell his approach. He's trying to stay on the ball. I wish every once in a while he would just cut it loose and hit over the Hunt Center. His last couple of BPs, he has been cutting it loose. His last few swings, he's hammered the ball, and I think that's good for him. Have that feel-good BP at the end, and here's 3 swings, cut it loose, or here's 5 swings, cut it loose, let it go, get the head out there and let it eat.
Reminder, our baseball podcast sponsored by H&R Tire and Auto, local shop. They've been family-owned for 3 generations. They built their reputation on taking care of customers the right way. That kind of longevity doesn't happen by accident. H&R Tire and Auto. On Souza, you talked about that double play that he turned, the 5-4-3 yesterday. There was a play, I don't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday, but he's playing third base, and they bunt it. He comes up, charges it, makes a good, strong throw across and gets the guy at first base. It seems like he's starting to trust his arm a little bit more.
I think so. It's incredible how quick he closes on that bunt, because they tried to bunt multiple times, and he's there. Now he's playing a little bit shallow probably than most third basemen play, but he's so quick. And but he charged those, and he put a little bit more on the throw. On a lot of throws, you see him just getting rid of it. It's kind of like the old Ozzie Smith, where he just fields it and gets it there just in time. He knows how fast the runner is, so he doesn't have to cut it loose. But once that arm gets healthy, wherever he's playing, he's going to be really good. But the double play really stood out to me because you could have taken the easy out at home, but he didn't. I mean, he stepped up, got the hop, and turned 2, which was huge.
His footwork is really good. Van Horn told me in the preseason that in the fall, whenever he was hurt and he couldn't throw the ball, but he was still, doing defensive work, footwork drills and things like that, that Van Horn would take the younger guys over and say, just watch him. Watch how he moves his feet. This is what you've got to do. And I thought that kind of showed on that play where he fielded that bunt. I mean, he quick feet up to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, he's kind of a clinic on the right way to do things. I was taught if your feet quit moving, your glove quit moving. So, starts with the feet.
Bullpen looks good. I mean, you look at the numbers for this pitching staff, and again, if you take away those 3, and I know you can't, but just imagine if you took away those 3 midweek starts by Lee against Arkansas State and the last 2 by DeCrimmer, what the pitching numbers would be. But even with those, Bubba, the team ERA is a 2.74. That's a great number. Their WHIP is under 1. I think it's 0.98 or 0.99. Teams are batting 199 against them. And that's why, Mississippi State's going to be a really interesting series this weekend just to kind of gauge where Arkansas is at, because Mississippi State is a really good team this year. They're ranked number 3, and they ought to be ranked number 3. Their only losses are to UCLA and Southern Miss by 1 run apiece. Those are good teams. Both of them were away from Starkville. I think Arkansas can pitch with anybody. I really do.
Yeah.
I think, and I think that on the days where, say like Sunday, okay, so it's not going great for Colin Fisher. Well, here comes Cole Gibbler out of the bullpen, and you're going to be hard pressed to find a better left-handed reliever, I think, right now than Cole Gibbler. So they've got some weapons in the bullpen. You saw some of them yesterday. Eves gave up a couple of hits, but then he really settled in, and he was rolling for the last 3 innings that he was on the mound. I think they can pitch with anybody, and so that's why I think they've got a chance still to win a lot of games, even with the offense not performing to the level, certainly not to the level that it did last year. And I think we said this last week. You're not going to see them perform at that level because that was just a generational type offense that they had last season. But I think they can pitch with anybody and put themselves in a position to where if you can put together a 2 or 3 run inning in the 7th or the 8th inning off somebody's bullpen, you can win a lot of games.
Yeah, well, you talked about Gibbler. What about McIlvain?
Yeah,
he's been incredible.
Yeah.
Parker Coyle's been really good.
I think they got 6 players, maybe it's 5 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players who have not given up an earned run this year. Now, 1 or 2 of them, they haven't pitched a whole lot, but Brissy, he's pitched some innings. McIlvain, Steele Eves has not given up an earned run. Gibbler, I think he's only given up 1 earned run. Fisher, I mean, you don't throw him out because he had a bad inning the other day. They got some really good pitchers on this pitching staff, and I think they're going to be able to compete because of the depth of the bullpen.
So, on Fisher, he didn't have his best stuff, but go back, take away that one pitch, and it's still a good outing, even though he didn't have his best. He really didn't have his changeup, I didn't think.
Curveball was good.
Curveball was, yeah. Wasn't locating his fastball like he normally is, and he was still almost able to get out of that. I'll tell you who was really good yesterday, Steele Eves.
Yeah.
Eves was throwing 93, 94 at the bottom of the zone. Like almost every pitch he threw was at the bottom of the zone. He was just getting ground ball, ground ball, ground ball. Slider was good. He kept the key is he kept everything down. In the fall or the early spring, he was getting balls up above the belt.
Getting hammered.
It starts to flatten out a little bit. As long as he stays down there, he's such a good weapon. However they use him, he could go longer or he could go shorter and come out and close out a game.
It's kind of like the Stetson series in general. You could look at this one of 2 ways with Eves. Like Texas Tech, he comes in, I think he hits a guy in the head, and then they get a 2-run hit off of him, and he's not able to nail it down in the 9th inning of that game. But then he comes back out, and he's great in the 10th and the 11th. Yesterday, kind of a similar deal. He comes in, couldn't put the fire out. They scored a couple of runs off of hits against him. I think one's a routine hit, one's a bunt single. But then, again, comes back out, 5th, 6th, 7th innings. And not only was it good, it was quick. And there was that curfew yesterday. It was 3 o'clock curfew. I just kicked my microphone. But it was a 3 o'clock curfew. And at 1:40, you're going into the 5th inning. And I'm like, I don't know they're going to make it to the 9th inning at this pace. And then Eves, 10-pitch inning, 8-pitch inning, 8-pitch inning. Stetson, they're kind of doing the same thing to Arkansas on the other side. And it's like 4 or 5 innings went by in 40 minutes. And you get to the 9th inning, and it's like 2:20. Well, there's plenty of time to finish this game.
Yeah.
You might, if they can tie it here, maybe you can even play a 10th inning. I don't know. But I was really impressed with what Eves did and just the efficiency with which he can do that.
Yeah, I think he's really good. The key for him is just keep the ball down. I mean, we've seen how effective that is when we face a sinker slider guy. They're hard to hit. They really are. Especially if you keep that ball down like that. Hitters hit the top of that ball, and it's just a ground ball. Brissy's another guy. When I watch Brissy throw, he's, 94, 95. I think he's got more in the tank, but the 95 plays faster. Like it looks faster out of his hand. It's almost like it has a second gear halfway to the plate and it just takes off. Hitters don't see the ball well. I've been really impressed with him.
He was up one of the last 2 days. I can't remember. He didn't make it into the game, but he was up in the bullpen. And I think that this tells you what they think about him is that they were going to bring him in a pretty high leverage situation late in the game. I think he can be awfully good. One more thing here before we get out of here. There was a mock draft by Baseball America that came out yesterday. They've got Ryder Helfrich as the 18th overall pick by the Reds. They've got Gabe Gackle as the 24th overall. by the Mariners. Now, certainly a lot can change between now and then. I think Hunter Dietz is going to end up maybe on some of these first-round projections before this is all over if he keeps pitching the way he's doing. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Gage Woods. I know it's different because
You're
Gage
right.
had the shoulder injury last year that kept him out, but like it feels like it's kind of that upward trajectory with him. With Helfrich, I wonder, and you've been through this. You're in your draft year. Everybody's got these expectations of you. How do you handle that? And do you think that is that at all maybe what we're seeing from him where the numbers just aren't quite – again, I think they're going to be better than what they are right now.
I think they're going to be better, and it's hard not to put pressure on yourself. I mean, there's scouts in the stands; they watch everything you do. What's impressive with Helfrich is when he makes an out, he doesn't take it behind the plate. Like a lot of guys, I played with catchers that, when they're struggling offensively, they're calling a really bad game and giving up a lot of runs. Helfrich doesn't let the two interfere. But he's still been, he hit a ball hard yesterday up the middle, over 100. I think he got pitched to really, really tough yesterday. Now, the day before, I think it was the day before, he popped up to shallow right, one at bat, popped up to third, one at bat. I think popped up to first. So he was getting under a few balls. So I think he's still kind of finding his swing. But he's dangerous at the plate.
Well, I mean, we talked about he's been the hardest luck hitter the last couple of days, notwithstanding. But for a lot of this season, it's been a lot of hard hit balls right at people, and you still think that you keep having those kind of swings. And he went through this a little bit at the beginning of the season where he had that great game against Oklahoma State. And he chased a pitch trying to hit a third home run, and it took him out of the strike zone for about a week.
Yeah.
I think he'll find it again.
I do too.
If he can find that again and start having those hard hit balls, it's going to fall for him at some point. I think that again, I think he's kind of the glue to this. Like if Helfrich gets going, and you see your leader get going, I think that's got a trickle-down effect in the lineup.
Absolutely. I think him and Kozel's been rock solid. He's had great at-bats. He's squaring up balls. I mean, he's in a really good place mentally. So whatever that is he listens to pregame.
Gregorian chant.
We might get the whole team listening to that. Maybe Pompey needs some of that. But, Matt, here's the way I view it. Like, we can take all of this stuff right here and just throw it out. For me, the season starts Friday at 6 o'clock. It really does. Once we get into SEC play, I don't look at any of this. I look at SEC stats only for us and for the teams we're playing. This is all just spring training almost. I mean, and I don't want to downplay it, but I mean, this is a time for Dave and the staff to figure out, okay, this is who we got. This is our dudes. And there's a couple of question marks still, but I think it'll work itself out once SEC play starts.
That is a good point. That's a good point about spring training because you get like 6 weeks in Major League Baseball to get ready for the season. I mean, a lot of these teams they're not even able to get outside before the regular season begins in college, and even that way for Arkansas a little bit. I think they had 3 or 4 outdoor scrimmages before they were able to get on the field down in Arlington. Bubba, appreciate you being here. Bubba will be back here in studio on Thursday. We'll look ahead to that Mississippi State game. Once again, we want to tell you our baseball podcast brought to you by H&R Tire and Auto. They're proudly family-owned since 1976. Trusted across Northwest Arkansas, committed to keeping you safe on the road all season long. Learn more or schedule service at hrtireandauto.com. We'll be back with another podcast tomorrow. Hope to see you then or at our website, wholehogsports.com.